I'm curious if someone found you today and they were the perfect client. Would you actually know how they become your client? Or would it kind of feel like, I guess they DM me and maybe we hop on a call and maybe I send them the link, because here's the truth, no one really is willing to say out loud. A lot of businesses aren't actually struggling because of visibility. In fact, visibility has never been easier to attain. But a lot of businesses are struggling because there's no clear path once someone finds you. If it doesn't light you up, it won't sell. And that is your sign to shift things in your business. Hi, I'm your host, Maggie Olson. I'm your business mentor, your human design expert, and the creator of the Magnetic Method Designed to Convert formula. I help women entrepreneurs just like you simplify their strategy, align their sales with their energy, and finally build a business that feels like freedom, not like pressure. After nearly 2 decades in entrepreneurship, I have learned that success isn't actually about doing more. It's about aligning with what already works for you, tapping into your natural energy. And here on the Chaos to Clarity podcast, we're going to blend human design with practical business strategy to help you attract clients naturally, sell with confidence, and grow with ease. So if you're ready to design a business that lights you up, converts with clarity, and learn more about working with me inside of the Magnetic Method mentorship and all of my other programs, you're going to find the link to all of that in the show notes, and you're going to find all of that information here on the podcast. So let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. Hello and welcome back to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. My name is Maggie. I'm your host, your business mentor, and your human design expert. And today I want to talk about one of the biggest lies that in the online space. And it's this idea that if things aren't working, it's because you're not disciplined enough in your business life, whatever. And basically you just need to be more quote unquote consistent, and you need to get more motivated, and you need to be better at managing your time. But after nearly 20 years in business, this is what I've actually seen. Most people are not lazy, and their business structure actually isn't broken. It's quite honestly a very different problem. And you know what? You can be so smart, so talented. You can be showing up consistently and still feel like your business is way harder than it should be. In fact, I talk to a lot of people who they tell me, Maggie, I just need to be consistent. I just need to get more consistent. And let me just say this. It's not because you don't know what you're doing, but it's honestly because the foundation underneath everything you're doing isn't built to hold what you're doing. So today, let's get into talking about something that will change everything once you see it. And it's the difference between strategy and systems. Now, in your business, you need both strategy and systems. But here's where most people get tripped up. So strategy is what you do. Think of this as, you're posting content, you're starting a podcast, you're running a masterclass, you're growing your audience, you're sending the emails, you're starting the conversations, which is great. I love that. We all need that, but strategy alone does not create stability. So systems are actually what make the business work. So systems are things like, how does someone go from finding you to trusting you to paying you? That's it, right? Your systems are all going to surround that. So instead of just post more content, be more consistent, we're looking at content, conversation, client. And that's why I'm so passionate about having conversations, about generating leads, about helping people build these sustainable systems and these sustainable strategies that they can build on each other. So think of this, instead of hosting a masterclass, right? We're looking at having a podcast, having a masterclass, an application, and then becoming a client. So that if someone is wanting to join my masterclass, okay, so I host monthly masterclasses. P.S. The link is down in the show notes if you want to join this month's masterclass. It's on March 26th. And we're actually talking all about the client journey. So everything I'm talking about today on the podcast will be amplified in that masterclass. And if it's after March 26th that you're listening to this and you're like, oh no, damn it, I wanted to come, just send me a DM that says client journey, and I will send you the link for the replay. So, okay, let's get back to this. So instead of just hosting a masterclass, what you're looking at is, at least for me, part of my client journey for this is podcast, where I talk about the masterclass, where I talk about a lot of the ideas that I'll be giving in the masterclass. That then brings someone who might be a cold or a cool audience member, a cool lead, from podcast to masterclass. So now they've signed up with me. So now they're a warm lead. They're starting to dig into more of my stuff. Maybe they're following me on socials, right? They're taking in all of my stuff. They come to the masterclass and they're like, oh my gosh, wow, this is what I need. And then in the masterclass, at the end of the masterclass, they get the link to apply to work with me. And that's where they go from warm to a hot lead, right? So they fill out the application. I get on a call with them. We make sure everything is aligned. Everything feels good for both of us. And then that's when they decide if they're going to be a client or not. So if that middle part is missing for you, right? Where you're going from content to conversation to client, you don't have a business, you have a bunch of disconnected efforts. And something that I want to help you do is reconnect all that stuff, because quite honestly, a lot of people think, oh, it's going to be so hard. It's going to be so much work. I'm going to have to do all this stuff. And that's honestly not necessarily the case. Sometimes it's just a few things that need to be reconnected in order for you to make all of this work. So if we're thinking about this way, strategy without systems is just busy work that doesn't compound. You're just going to stay busy. And this is why so many people feel like, I'm doing all the things. Why isn't this working? Or I'm hustling, I'm showing up every day, I'm very consistent, but why isn't this working? And it's because nothing is connected, right? There's no clear way to get from A to B to C to D. And that's what I help you do in all of my mentoring and coaching programs. That's what I'm helping you do. So let me give you a kind of like real life check here. So if you feel like your business is missing structure, okay, it might be if you are having random leads, or you feel like your leads come in spurts, right? Like one week you're adding everybody and the next week you can't even get anyone to comment on your content, right? Sales might feel inconsistent for you. You are having conversations, but they are going nowhere, right? They're just like those pleasantries. Or maybe you're constantly trying new strategies and you just feel busy, but it doesn't feel clear. And quite honestly, the last one, you're constantly trying new strategies. I actually just talked to someone today who said they were trying out different CRMs and they listed off a whole bunch of them. And I said, wow, that's a lot of different things to be bouncing back and forth between. And this person shared with me, yeah, they were feeling overwhelmed because they didn't know what to do. And so I asked them, I said, well, I have two things in mind. Are you open to hearing what I have on my mind for what you're telling me? And this person said yes. So then I said, number one, if you're bebopping around, that is going to cause chaos. You're not going to feel stability if you're bopping around. So my biggest suggestion to you is to just simply use a spreadsheet for tracking your leads for right now. Don't go signing up for all of the free 14-day trials. You're just going to drive yourself nuts because you're going to want to understand how you bring in leads, how they flow through your client journey before you opt into a CRM. And now if you're already thinking, oh, but Maggie, I already have a CRM that I don't know how to use and it's a mess, that's okay, right? It can be cleaned up. So if you're trialing all these different things, knowing your client journey is going to make that so much easier because then you know what stage people are at. And then you can make the CRMs work a little bit better, easier, quicker for you. So something that a lot of people do not talk about is that when structure is missing, your business is going to feel heavier than it needs to. And you'll notice this. You'll notice this because you'll find yourself saying like, I'm doing all of this work, but nothing is happening, or this feels really heavy, or you'll find yourself saying things like, oh, it's a slow market, or nobody's buying, or blaming it on the economy. And look, all of those things might be true, and people are always buying. There are always people who are ready to purchase an offer. So business isn't supposed to feel that hard. Yes, your business takes work. I'm not saying it's a total walk in the park, right? So it takes work. Yes, you have to show up, but it shouldn't necessarily feel like you're constantly guessing your way through it, or you're thinking, what worked last week does not work this week. It does not need to feel like that. So here is the shift that I want to give you today in this podcast. So when we fix structure, everything will get clearer. And this is why I'm so passionate about fixing the structure, because you're building the framework, you're building the bones, right? It's not magically easy, but it's cleaner, it's simpler, it's more direct. You don't have to wonder, oh, am I doing this right? Should this go here? Does this come next? Should I make a new offer? That doesn't happen anymore. And then the simplest way to look at this is your client journey. So if you don't know what your client journey is, if you're listening to this and you're like, I have no clue how someone goes from cold to sold, or if you're thinking about this and you're like, man, in order for someone to buy from me, they have to go through 27 steps just to get to, my low ticket offer. No one is going to do that, right? People want easy. People want that to be seamless. So every single business needs a path. And this is something that, again, I'm really excited about. I'm really passionate about helping people understand this. So really, every business kind of follows the same 4 steps, right? The same 4-step plan. Obviously, you can build on it, but this is just a very simplified version of it. So if you don't have a client journey right now, or if you're scratching your head and you're going, nobody ever told me I needed a client journey, what? So this simple 4-step plan, again, this is something that I'm going more in depth in the masterclass on March 26th. So step 1 is discovery, and step 2 is connection, step 3 is invitation, and step 4 is client. So this literally takes someone from cold to sold in a client journey. Now, there is more to this client journey after they become your client, right? Like, what is your offboarding? But that is for another day, because because most people's problem is bringing in clients, getting someone to discover you and then pay you, right? Because you don't have a clear path from discovery to connection to invitation to client. So for me, for example, what this looks like. Discovery is someone listening to my podcast, maybe somebody connecting with me on Facebook, maybe, seeing some of my posts on Facebook in a group, wherever, Instagram, wherever they see it, right? And then they connect with me, whether that is dropping a word in the comments or sharing their thoughts on something that I've shared, or maybe, like if you add me on Facebook, I will send you a DM and I will say, hey, hi, how are you? Thanks so much for adding me. I would love to know what's something you're loving right now about your business, right? I will send that message because that is a way for us to discover each other and connect. So it's kind of taking those first two steps and bringing them together. Now, once people discover me, then we go to the connection phase. So maybe I post something about the upcoming masterclass. Hey, who wants to understand how to learn their client journey, how to lay out their client journey so that connecting with clients and signing clients becomes easier, right? People raise their hand, they say me, and I say, great, I'm going to send you a link. Go ahead and check your messages. That's connection. Right now, in that connection, I'm going to invite them. Hey, name, I'm so grateful that you raised your hand. Here's the link. Go ahead and sign up. Let me know when you've signed up. And that is the invitation. So they've discovered me. We've connected. I've invited them. And then during the masterclass, I'm going to share. Here's what I have, right? Here's the Magnetic Method program. It's open. It's waiting for you so that we can go further in your business so that you can generate the leads, the clients, the income that you want. So that's how someone is going to go from discovery to client in my world. So I'm curious for you, right? I wonder if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know if I have a client journey. My ask of you would be to sit down and go through, what does it take for someone to go from cold to sold in your world? When someone stumbles across your content, what happens? How do they go from not knowing you to buying your stuff? And, if people are finding you, right, but they're not necessarily talking to you, there's a gap. If they're talking to you and they're not buying from you, there's a gap. Okay. And if people are buying, but it's super inconsistent, you guessed it, there is a gap. And your job isn't necessarily to do more. Your job is to see where the path is broken. And this is something that, again, I help people understand what is broken, and then we go in and fix it. And it doesn't have to be a big deal, right? So many people come to me and they're, pulling their hair out. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. How did it get to this place? And they're like, this is going to take months. And really, it doesn't. Really, it can, a lot of my clients, when they come and work with me, within the first month or so, we get things to a point where things are working better than they were before, right? Where they're smoother than they were the month before, because we take the time to look at what's there, what's happening, what is the feedback, what is the data that's coming in that you're noticing, that you're seeing, and where can we start to fix things? Where can we start to patch those holes so that there's no more holes in the road, right? So I've had plenty of businesses that have made money, right? Like at this point in my career, I've owned businesses for nearly 20 years. 2027 will be my 20th year in business. And, over these last 19, 20 years, I've grown 3 separate businesses. I've started so many other businesses, right? So many other side hustles, mostly because, it was the mid 2000s to, the 2020s, and side hustles were a thing. But here's the thing. I've had all these businesses. They've all made money in some way, shape, or form. But behind the scenes, certain businesses felt so chaotic, right? Leads were inconsistent, sales felt unpredictable, and I literally always felt like I had to push harder to keep things going. Now, I will say my photography business is probably the best example of this, mostly because I didn't know any better at the time, right? So when I started that business, leads were super inconsistent. Now, granted, it was 2007. So I didn't necessarily, number one, I didn't know how to generate leads. So I had to learn how to generate leads. So you'll know if you've listened to the podcast that, I would go into the grocery store and I would make it a point to talk to at least 3 people at some point and try to give out my business card at least 3 times to 3 different people. So I was generating leads, but the sales were very inconsistent. They were unpredictable because I didn't know when that card was going to come back to me, right? I didn't know when that person would be calling me or emailing me to set up photos. So I had to understand and really learn how to generate leads and then have the sales be more predictable. Now, it wasn't really a big deal until I left corporate in 2013. When I left corporate in 2013, all of a sudden I was like, oh shit. Now I really have to sales need to be predictable. I can't go through these ups and downs. And at first I did find myself saying, oh, it's wintertime, nobody buys photos in the winter, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like I was having to push and push and push just to keep things going. Now, when I took a step back and I really looked at like, okay, I can't go through these peaks and valleys. I need consistency in my income. This is all that I have to, like, I have the photos, I have the photography business. It has to work, right? So I had to look at how can I make this feel predictable? How can I make sales be predictable? So I had to get a little smart, right? Like I had to put my thinking cap on and think, okay, so how living in Wisconsin, right? We have winter from November to April. How can I make those months be more predictable sales wise? So I learned how to start reaching back out to clients. I learned how to share what I was doing, right? I blogged more. I talked about what I was doing more on social media as it became more popular. So yes, I pushed, but it wasn't necessarily a hard push. It was more of sharing what I was doing along the way so that people then felt more connected to me. And that really made that business flow so much easier. And, really what I realized again was it wasn't that I needed to work harder. I just needed a structure that actually supported the way I work. And then when I bought the yoga studio and then when I closed the yoga studio and moved into full-time coaching, I knew that I needed to revisit that and do those same things and understand what is my client journey? How does somebody go from cold to sold? How are they going to know what I'm doing? Who I'm working with? How are they going to know what my offers are? So once I started simplifying things into where are people finding me? How are we starting conversations? How am I inviting them in? Everything shifted. So, before when I told you to go ahead and write down what are the steps for someone to go from cold to sold for you, right? We know there's 4 main stages: discovery, connection, invitation, and client, right? For someone to go from cold to sold. But if you're thinking about that and you're like, I don't know, right? Using these questions, where are people finding me? How are we starting conversations? And how am I inviting them in? Those are going to answer the stages, those 4 stages, right? That's going to help you understand, oh, here's how somebody goes from cold to sold, and everything will shift, right? You don't have to chase clients then. because the path is already there. It's laid out and it's easy to follow, right? And that's really, when we think about chaos to clarity, that's really what chaos to clarity means. It's not about doing more. It's about making what you're already doing actually work, not adding more strategies, not adding more freebies, not adding more whatevers, right? Just leaning in and understanding what is the actual path. It's funny because I have had a lot of conversations over the past few weeks with different people, and, people have said the same thing recently. Oh, business is so hard. And I said, it's not really that hard. It's really not. Like, we make it hard on ourselves most of the time unintentionally, right? We unintentionally make it hard because we're like, oh, but I need to add this and I need to add that. And I saw this freebie and so said that, blah, blah, blah. And, if it doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to do it. And this is like human design aside, right? Like, I know a lot of times I'll bring in human design, but today, this episode, these are things that you can do really without knowing your human design. However, I will say that understanding your human design, even if you just think about your type, that is going to help you understand your energy, the output, and the work you actually want to be doing. So again, this is stuff that I'm talking about on March 26th inside the masterclass that I'm hosting. The masterclass is free. The masterclass is called The Client Journey: Why Your Business Feels Harder Than It Should. And, think about it like this. For most people, it's not a visibility problem, right? At the top of the episode, I said it's never been easier to be visible. It truly is not. You have so much access to so many people now. It's quite honestly, from someone who built a business in 2007 to now, the amount of eyeballs you can have on you is mind-blowing. So it's not a visibility problem. It's usually, honestly, not even a sales problem. It's a missing pathway problem. Could sales be affected in there? Yes. But if you don't know the pathway, you're not going to know if you can make a sale. So you have to know the pathway in order to be able to make the sale. So inside this masterclass, I'm going to walk you through the 4 stages of a real client journey. And we talked a little bit about them in the episode today, right? We have discovery, conversation, invitation, and client. So we're going to walk through those 4 stages. We're also going to look at where most businesses break down, and this is something that it might surprise you. And I'm so excited to talk about that in this masterclass. And then we're going to create a simple, repeatable system that can bring in consistent sales and leads for you. So you're going to create your client journey right there inside the masterclass with me. And I'm not talking about, this is not fluff. It's not just go post more, just be more consistent. This is actual structure that you can build off of, that you'll be able to grow with and grow your business through. So if your business has been feeling harder than it should, if you've been doing all the things and it still feels scattered and crazy and you're still blaming the economy on your lack of sales, right? This is going to give you clarity really fast, because I truly believe that people are always buying, right? You just need to know the pathway, and knowing is half the battle when you're selling. So you can go ahead and grab your spot from the link below down in the show notes. Come hang out with me live. We're going to map this out together because I want you to win. I want you to be able to feel confident and comfortable, and most importantly, convicted about your offer, right? I want you to be excited. I want you to not be able to stop talking about it. And people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I got to be a part of this. So let this be a reminder. You are not lazy. You are not behind. You probably just don't have a clear path yet in your business. Okay. And once you do, everything is going to change in your business. Everything will shift. Everything will feel easier. Now, like always, I would love to hear what resonated the most for you in this episode. So make sure you go ahead, slide into my DMs. Let me know what feels best for you. You can find me on Instagram at Maggie Lynn, Lynn mentoring, or you can find me at the Chaos to Clarity podcast, both on Instagram. Come and say hi. Feel free to add me on Facebook. Let's have a conversation. I'm so excited to talk to you. And as always, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all the things. Send this to a friend. Send this to a bestie who needs to hear this today, who needs a client journey, who needs a little reassurance that yes, she can do this. And I will see you in the next episode.